We possess the most advanced communication network in human history. Yet, if you look at how we actually talk to each other, you see echo chambers, sycophancy, and arguments that collapse under the slightest pressure. The problem goes back to a flawed model of learning. W.B. Yeats suggested education should light a fire. Instead, we treat it like filling a bucket. A container filled with facts is still just a container. It cannot filter out bad information on its own, and it cannot seek out new truths when the supply runs dry. Genuine learning does more than store data. It changes what the container is. A person who has genuinely learned something asks different questions and perceives reality in an entirely new way. 2,000 years ago, an educational framework was built specifically to change how a person thinks. It is called the trivium. To escape the noise of modern discourse and build genuine human judgment, we have to drop the bucket model and adopt this ancient framework. The trivium isn't a linear staircase, but a continuous spiral. The first stage is grammar, slowing down to precisely name facts. Second is logic, testing relationships and steelmanning opposing views. Third is rhetoric, returning truth to the world through responsible action. This final outward stage requires virtues like truthfulness and humility. When someone possesses sharp reasoning and articulate speech, but lacks a commitment to truth, their rhetoric becomes pure manipulation. Completing this three-part spiral builds a powerful, durable defense against modern manipulation and emotional echo chambers. Run through this spiral enough times, and you develop metacognition. You gain a permanent, structural awareness of how your own mind works, allowing you to watch your own learning process from a slight distance. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle studied this mental evolution and gave its endpoint a specific name, phronesis, or practical wisdom. A person who attains phronesis no longer relies on a checklist of external rules. They utilize deeply internalized character to make complex judgments in real-world situations. Confucius warned that knowing without doing is the same as not knowing at all. If learning doesn't dictate your actions, the process is unfinished. This internal, morally anchored judgment belongs to the learner. It is a state of character that no machine can replicate. When wise individuals practice the trivium across generations, it scales up to become a macro-level mechanism for human progress. The American educator Mortimer Adler named this historical phenomenon the Great Conversation. This visualization shows how the mechanics work across centuries. Inherited knowledge is received, logically tested by the next generation, refined, and passed forward in an unbroken chain. For example, Aristotle did not simply repeat the claims of his predecessor, Plato. He read Plato's arguments, tested them rigorously, and openly disagreed with specific points, moving the philosophical debate forward. Centuries later, the biologist Charles Darwin read an earlier text by the economist Thomas Malthus. Darwin synthesized Malthus's concepts of population limits with biology, producing a mechanism for evolutionary theory. Engaging in this chain of argument, response, and development prevents civilization from repeating failures settled hundreds of years ago. Today, that conversation is stalling. Driven by social pressure, we routinely skip the careful observation of grammar and the rigorous testing of logic. We jump straight to weaponized rhetoric, arguing intensely over concepts we haven't actually examined. We cannot outsource our participation in this conversation to artificial intelligence. Current AI systems operate within a strict context window. They only work with the information active in the immediate moment, and when that window clears, the machine resets like a blank whiteboard. Because it lacks internal moral formation, AI is permanently susceptible to sycophancy. It can be programmed to resist pressure, but it cannot develop the genuine internal character required to hold firmly to the truth when the crowd demands otherwise. The final requirement of the trivium is intellectual stewardship. This is the civic duty to govern your own mind, receive the accumulated record of human knowledge, and return it in better condition than you found it. True societal progress requires individual action. Step back onto the learning spiral, cultivate your own practical wisdom, and deliberately re-enter the great conversation.